The recording stopped. If it stops again, I'm not going to worry about it. All right. So this session is going to be packed with useful information. But once again, I love questions. Please interrupt me. Honestly, you don't have to hold your questions to the end. I'd rather, unless you're writing it down, I'd rather you go ahead and ask it when it comes to mind. That way I make sure you're getting the most out of this training session. All right. And so before we jump into this evening's content, and let me just say, this will not be a long and drawn out webinar. We're going to get right to it. We are going to get right to the point so that you can get the information and get back to living life. But before we get started, I do want to take 30 seconds and ask that you follow us on Instagram if you're not currently following us, if you're on TikTok, if you could follow us on TikTok and also on Facebook. The QR code is here for Instagram. We are under Keys and Deeds Realty. So if you wanted to scan your screen, you could do that. But please follow us. We are, collectively, we have thousands of followers, but you would have to visit our personal pages to get the content that we as the team members of Keys and Deeds Realty share. So we're trying to build up our company pages with more followers because that's where we dump all of our content. So we're dumping content there. You can access our monthly newsletters there. You can see important posts such as this as far as when our next webinars are coming up. So please just take a few seconds, follow us. Even if you don't want to follow us on platforms, on all platforms, just pick one. That way you can remain connected with us in case the need ever arises for our services. So thank you for taking a few seconds to follow us on social media. All right, so let's jump into it. Again, we're talking about viewing homes, right? Which of course is the core focus of tonight's webinar. And it's the first thing we need to cover. It's going to be the do's and the don'ts. It's so important. Like it's a fun time when you're out there and you're looking at properties. We get that. But there is a decorum that definitely needs to be followed when we're out here looking at homes, right? So does anyone, and I'll ask this question, if no one throws it into the chat or takes themselves off of mute, I will, or themselves off mute, I will go ahead and move along. But I'm curious to know if anyone thinks that they know some of the do's and don'ts when it comes to viewing a home. And I'll just wait a few seconds, and if no one is bold enough to take themselves off of mute or throw it into the chat, that's cool. We're going to keep it moving. But I always like to ask, because again, the goal is to learn as much as possible in this short time that we're going to have together. All right. So we're going to keep it moving. At the bottom, you'll see I have my little tagline here. You want to see beyond the surface and you want to know what matters most, right? So when it comes to viewing homes, when you've reached the phase or the stage in your home buying journey of actually getting out there and touring properties, this is where all these things are going to come into play, right? So the do's, you want to make sure that you are arriving on time. And it's important because you want to respect the seller's schedule. So behind the scenes, right, whenever you want to see a home, as agents, we're typically using a showing service, which is called showing time, right? And when we go into showing time, we're picking the day and a time block that we're going to be bringing our clients through the property. This showing app is available to all licensed real estate agents. So if you're telling us, well, Dawn, I'm available Tuesday at 10 a.m., and I'm blocking off 10 a.m. to 10:30 a.m., it is very possible that someone is now taking the 10:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. slot. Some listings will allow overlapping showings, meaning there could be multiple agents in the property at one time, but sometimes that's not the case. Not every listing will allow you to be in there while other agents. It's exclusive. You know, you're allowing exclusive appointments only. So it's important that we follow and arrive on time for several reasons. Number one, so we don't miss our scheduled time. Number two, because a seller may be thinking, all right, my home is being showed from 10 until 10:30. I can come back home at 10:30. Well, if you're running late And then we have to notify the listing agent that we're running late, right? And they're going to need to notify the seller. And sometimes it could be a pain in the butt. So just make sure when you are preparing to get out there to look at these properties, you want to make sure that you're arriving on time and being respectful of the seller's schedule. Now, in that same breath, I'm going to also say you want to make sure you're being mindful about your real estate professional as well, because I'm going to go ahead and assume that any real estate professional that you decide to work with, you're likely not going to be their only client, right? And so some of us will have back-to-back appointments throughout the day. And if one of them is, let's see, got it. If one of them is thrown off a bit, then it can mess up the entire schedule. So you just want to make sure that you are communicating with your agent just in case any type of, if there's any type of shifts in your schedule. You definitely want to make sure you are coming prepared. So it is perfectly okay for you to bring a notebook. In fact, I encourage it, right? Especially we have some people that want to see 6, 7 houses all in one shot. So you're seeing them back to back. At one point or another, something's going to run into, you're going to be like, oh my God, what was the property that had the countertops that I didn't like, or which one had the red carpet that we didn't even know existed because they didn't have on online pictures, right? So rather than you having to commit everything to memory for every property that you may have seen, just bring a notebook and you can take notes during your showing, after the showing. You can write down the address and put in there, no way I'm ever moving into this property. It just helps you to remain organized so that the process doesn't become too overwhelming where you can't quite remember what it is you saw and which property it is that you may want to go through. Of course, as your real estate professional, we're going to be there and taking notes as well for you. But it's also good. You may see some things that appeal to you that you don't want to forget about a particular home, and having that notebook with you is a great way to keep track. If you're someone that takes notes in your phone, that works as well, right? So you can absolutely take notes in your phone if you so choose to do so. It's okay for you to bring a tape measure. Now, one thing that I will point out, this is not a webinar about home inspections, but I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there because I do have the note in here about the tape measure. Your showing is going to be limited time, right? Like I said, it may be max 30 minutes. Some people only allow 15-minute showing, so you're in and out, right? Your home inspection is going to be the longest amount of time that you spend in the property before you go to the settlement table. So if you don't bring your tape measure to the showing, which is okay, because sometimes, like, let's say I have some people who are like, I need to fit a king size bed into this room. You're going to know when you look at some of these bedrooms whether or not they will allow or have enough space for a king size bed to fit in there. But if you're not sure, and you just want to be on the safe side, bring a tape measure, that's fine. But just know that when you're under contract for the house, you will have another opportunity to make sure that you're getting measurements. And so you have that opportunity during the home inspection. All right. Your must-have list. So this one I feel like can be committed to memory, but I have it in there anyway, just as something that you want to make sure that you are doing. So if your must-have is, I have to have central air, or I have to have at least a 10 by 10 bedroom, at least one 10 by 10 bedroom to fit certain stuff in there, then these are must-haves. That's something that I would say you will want to get done on the front end before even putting in an offer, right? If you have to have a certain dimension in a bedroom, then you definitely want to bring that tape measure and you want to make sure that the house has it. So those very important must-have lists that may not be something that's evident on the online listing that you can't tell from the photos, or it's not in the description, you definitely want to make sure that you're bringing that list with you, or at least have it committed to memory. All right. Another do is making sure that you are looking beyond the staging. All right. Focus on the home structure, the layout, and the condition. Condition we can modify, right? Layout, you cannot, for the most part. Can some walls be blown out? Sure, as long as they're not load-bearing walls, and as long as it makes sense, right? But you want to make sure that you're focusing on the big things. Don't worry about the staging, whether it's not it's staged professionally. The home is going to be delivered vacant anyway. So the staging is not going to matter. You want to make sure your home isn't leaning. I've walked into houses where, and I don't know if anybody on the call has ever been to King's Dominion. So in King's Dominion, or at least it was there the last time I was there, which was about 15 years ago, they had the Scooby-Doo house. And I don't know how they do it, but when you're leaving out the Scooby-Doo house, it feels like you're walking on a slant. And I have toured homes where that's exactly how it feels. It makes my vertigo kick in because I'm walking on a slant. The structure is that bad. It's not level. It's way off. So these are the things. If you tell me, oh, this house is so beautiful and it's on a slant, no, we're focusing on the wrong things. I don't care that it's newly renovated if it's evident that we have structural issues. And I want to say this, I'm not a structural engineer. However, if when we're walking sideways and everything is on a slant, that they've had to install the cabinets on a slant just because of the way the home is pitched, you may want to pay close attention to that. All right, so we want to focus on the big things, not the actual staging items. We do want to check out the basic stuff, like the light switches, making sure the lights come on. Some people have really fancy lights in there. So it's okay for us as we're going through there and checking out the home to test and see what type of light features there are, especially if it's advertised as part of the listing, right? It's okay for us to turn on a sink. Now, understand that we are not home inspectors, so we're not going to be doing too much, right? We're not getting under sinks. We're not going to flush all the toilets. That stuff we can reserve for the home inspection, but we can turn on sinks and see if it has. Some people really do care about water pressure, like they need to make sure that it's good. That's perfectly okay. We're not violating the house anyway if we do that. You do want to make sure that you have enough storage space. So storage space is a big one. You know, you can't necessarily go in and fix closet space if the house doesn't allow for additional framing to frame out a coat closet, let's say, right? So you know how much stuff you're going to be bringing to this home. You want to keep in mind that you may not be able to add closets. And I'm saying may because depending on the square footage of a home, maybe it could work. But those are the things you want to pay attention to. If you know you need a basement because you have a huge overflow of stuff, then we shouldn't be looking at houses that don't have a basement, right? If you know that a coat closet is a non-negotiable and there's no way to fit a coat closet into a living room without having to give up a couch, then these are the things we need to be focused on. Is this really the house for you? All right. You should be asking questions as far as how old are the systems? How old is the roof? You know, what are the taxes on the property? Are there any HOA fees? For those of you who may not know, HOA is homeowner association, right? So that's an additional fee that you would pay to an association. Typically, they handle snow removal. Those are reserved for the most part for developments. You know, they may handle landscaping. You may get some pools and other amenities. So those are the things you do want to ask about, right? Now, what I will tell you, and again, this is not a webinar on home inspections, but what I will say is there's something even more reliable than a seller's disclosure. And the reason why I bring seller's disclosure up is because when I say here to ask questions, we're going to be getting the answers as far as condition and age of systems off of that property disclosure. That's all the information that the seller is transferring over to the incoming buyer, right? If the seller inadvertently forgets to list something there, it's fine, right? I mean, it's fine, but it's not fine. The reason why I say it's fine is because you're going to be getting a home inspection. All right. We absolutely advocate for home inspection. So if a seller accidentally forgot to note something on there, hopefully it is picked up in the home inspection. And in fact, I don't take everything that a seller says. I don't treat it as a law. They can tell us that they've been getting a system serviced every single year. They can tell us that a system is brand new. That's fine. But you still want to back up that claim by getting a home inspection. All right. So still feel free to ask questions. You will have an opportunity to review the property disclosure yourself, but a lot of those questions we can answer right on the spot while you're in the home touring it, as long as the disclosures are available. Let me say that. Now let's touch on the don'ts of viewing a home. You don't want to bring large groups of family and friends unless it's absolutely necessary. I know that it's tempting. I know that we want everyone to see this beautiful property that we are about to purchase. We want opinions, but understand that sometimes it can be a bit challenging for a real estate agent. I do want to point out, so when we're going into property, if it's vacant, I'll get all the lights on for you. And then it's like, go through, fall in love with the house, allow it to speak to you, right? But when it's an occupied property, the handling of the showing is going to go a little differently. At that point, we're going to be touring together for obvious reasons, right? Everybody still has all of their furniture in place, their valuables in place, more than likely. I mean, they shouldn't have valuables laying out, but it's quite possible that there are gaming systems, TVs. Some people do leave jewelry out. So I've seen money left out. Believe it or not, I've seen a gun left out, right? And it's just like, why do we have a gun laying out during the showing? It's crazy. But for obvious reasons, if the property is occupied, we will be touring it together. Really, we want to have in the property the decision makers, those who are going to either be the ones on the loan or those who will be contributing to that monthly payment, right? Everyone else should be left off of the showings. Now, let me also be sensitive to children, because I realize that we do work with families a lot, and I'm not saying that you can't bring your kids. The kids have to come. You can't leave them at home, especially if they're underage, right? But we don't want to bring the entire family to property showings. We do want to keep it professional. We want to make sure as we're moving through these properties, especially if they're occupied, that we can keep it tight and we can do it together. All right. So anybody who doesn't necessarily need to be there, we're going to leave them at home and they can come to the housewarming. All right. You don't want to be overly critical allowed, right? And what I'm talking about is a lot of properties nowadays are under surveillance. They have Ring cameras. Some people have the cameras set up right inside the property. I have a client who had security inside the property. Now, we do put that on the listing, like, be aware that the property is under surveillance, and people will still go into the property knowing that they're being recorded and will say anything out of their mouths. And so we don't want to be overly critical, because some people are emotionally tied to their properties. And if they hear somebody in there bad mouthing it, being critical, and then they turn around and submit an offer, even if your offer is good, if they feel insulted, that may be enough to say, nope, those were the ones that were talking trash about my home. We're going to wait. We're going to go to the next one. It can happen, right? We don't have any control over it. So my advice is to always reserve conversations for outside of the property, away from the Ring camera. Never should we be discriminatory, but even if it's comments about how much you hate the kitchen or you hate the carpets and they're disgusting, we're still going to talk about that once we're away from the property, on the sidewalk or at our car. We'll step aside, go to one of our cars and just stand there and chit chat it up a little bit. You give me your feedback at that point. Or better yet, you can even call me. We can get in our cars. You can call me on the phone and give me your feedback then. We just want to make sure that we're not doing it in the property or within earshot of any cameras that are in place. And in today's day and age, even if it's not disclosed that there's a camera in place, pretend there's a camera in place. All right. It'll be for your own good. Honestly, y'all, it'll be for your own good. All right. You want to refrain from opening any private drawers or cabinets not included in the sale. So kitchen cabinets, perfectly okay, right? Personal, some people have, what do you call them? Like armoires. Is that what they're called? I think that's what they're called. Where they're storing personal items. Number one, that's a personal piece of furniture. You don't want to open up any personal items unless, like I said, unless it's included in the sale. So if part of the inclusion says that this piece of furniture is included, then we're going to go in to make sure there's not like water damage or stuff is missing where you will want to say, I want the house, but you're taking that piece of furniture out of here. So if it's that type situation, then we can open it. Outside of that, we can't go through personal property. Kitchen cabinets, okay. Refrigerator is going to be included in the sale, hopefully, right? Fingers and toes crossed. It's okay for you to look in there. Private drawers, like as far as their dresser goes, that's personal. We're not looking in those ever. We're not opening those up. All right. Linen closets. You can do that. It's a closet. You can check out the closets. All right. Just want to stay away from personal items and drawers on personal items. You don't want to rush through the property. Unless, like, I've had some people who step in and they're like, I don't want the property, but they'll just run through it anyway just to make sure that they are for sure that they don't want it. But as soon as they walked in, they knew it wasn't the home for them. In that instance, okay, you're rushing through the property. Outside of that, if when you first walk in, it feels inviting, you're not scared off for any particular reason, you want to make sure that you are looking at every single room. I always look up, I look around, I look down, we check out the basement. If it's a garage, we're checking out the garage. If there's a shed, we're checking out sheds. You know, we're going to look at everything. Now, it's not going to be an invasive showing. We're not going to be moving carpets and moving furniture and paintings and all that. No, we're not doing any of that. But you do want to make sure you're taking into consideration, again, the room size, closet sizes, the size of the bathroom, the layout. You don't just want to rush through it, especially if it's a top contender. Take your time, make sure you really see yourself there. All right. You don't want to, this really goes hand in hand with the being critical aloud, right? As far as making emotional comments that could affect negotiations later. So again, anything that you may feel about a property, you want to share with your agent. You don't want to say it within earshot because your agent will know how to weave it into the negotiations to make sure that everything works out in your favor as best as they can. But you don't want to do anything that impacts it and gets you shot in the foot. Okay. Last but not least, and I have this in bold print, don't ask to use the bathroom. All right. Vacant houses. Now, okay, here's a tricky thing. Number one, some of these houses don't have running water. The last thing I want to do is be the agent that has somebody in the house that used the bathroom, can't flush, and then they have this smell in the home, especially in the thick of summer, right? I understand that emergencies arise. If it's a vacant home and you are actually about to go on yourself, there will be an exception made. But especially for occupied homes, we want to stay away from asking to use the restroom. If you need to use the bathroom, I would say stop before you get to the house, right? We can cut a showing short if we need to, especially in an occupied property if you feel like you have to go. But it is, you know, in poor taste. It's not the best practice to allow people to use the bathrooms of homes, especially when they're occupied. And I just say, you know, just keep in mind if you had, because we are strangers to the homeowners, right? If somebody just knocked on your door, walked in, sat on your toilet, and was using your bathroom, you know what I mean? It's like that kind of thing. And hopefully sellers are cleaning up their bathrooms in case someone was allowed to use their bathroom during a showing. But in the off chance that that doesn't happen, we want to make sure that we're being respectful. We're there to see the home. We really shouldn't be using bathrooms. All right. So definitely keep that in mind. Now, what I also want you to keep in mind is this is coming from me, Dawn Harris, right? Depending on who you work with, which of course I hope it's me or someone from the team, right? They may be okay with it, but I'm telling you, this is all based on how we operate and prepare our buyers to view homes. Okay. All right. And believe it or not, we really don't have that much longer to go. I told you this is a quick one here, and I'm trying to get it done in under 45 so that you can ask your questions as well. So how to view the home. So we got our do's and don'ts out the way, right? When it comes to viewing a home, you need the right mindset, number one. Us talking about when to make the decision, we'll get to that. But the right mindset, you have to enter this situation with, I'm here to buy a house. I understand that I'm going to have to compromise on some things, not everything. I will never say compromise on all of your wish list, but you may have to compromise on a few items, right? So having that right mindset is so important. And I'm going to tell you what those things should be, things that you should focus on as you are starting this process. Think long term. Can you see yourself living in this home for the next 5 to 10 years? The average person is selling and then purchasing again every 5 to 7 years. So I definitely want you to think long term. Can you be comfortable here? Because you're going to want to give your home a chance to appreciate and value, so that if you do go to sell it, you have some equity in there where you can make some money off of the sale and put it on the next house, right? So think long term. Don't think, oh, I'll be happy here for just a year. That's the wrong way to look at it. Unless you're getting this house dirt cheap where you're walking into a bunch of equity. That's going to be a rare situation. You want to give, my recommendation is see yourself living there for the next 5 to 10 years. You want to picture daily life there, right? It's okay. You want to make sure that it feels right. Don't just get the house because the price is right. The price can be great, but everything about the home is wrong. And if that's the case, you're not going to be happy there. So it's okay for you to envision like how your mornings are going to go. You know, especially if a commute has to come into play. All right, this house is here. How long is it going to take me to get to work? Am I working from home? If I am, you know, do I have a space that I can designate in order to do this? These are very important things to consider. You want to definitely picture your daily life there. Holidays for me, listen, I don't play around. My Christmas holiday starts on September the 1st. That's when I start celebrating and buying presents. And me having family around for Christmas is important. And so if you're like me, it doesn't have to be Christmas, it could be any holiday, right? Barbecues, whatever. If you're someone who's like, I want people to come to me, make sure you have that space. These are the things you want to take into consideration. Because once you get the keys, if you knew you needed a backyard and now you're like, crap, I don't have a backyard, I got a driveway, now I can't have my barbecues. Well, now this was something that could have been avoided, right? So you want to make sure that you're picturing daily life. You also want to make sure that you're keeping in mind the 80% rule. If the house checks off 80% of your boxes, it is a contender. Now, we're talking 80% of the major boxes. So if you tell me, Dawn, central air is a deal breaker. If the house doesn't have central air, I don't want it, then we need to make sure that house has central air. As a matter of fact, I won't even take you to the houses that don't have central air if you tell me that that's not what you want, right? So you want to make sure that of those major boxes, Dawn, I need a basement. It has to have central air. It has to have hardwood floors. Those are my deal breakers, right? As long as you have 80% of those things, it may be the perfect deal for you. And you will notice that off to the right, I have a tip here. Beautiful hardwood floors are sometimes found under ugly carpets, because that is the truth. People tell me I want wood floors, and we still will go see it. I'm like, listen, even if it's a house with carpet, go in there and see that house, because if they have a piece of the carpet pulled up where we can check out the floors, let's see if there are hardwood floors underneath. Listen, the house may be perfect in every other area, checks off every other box, but they have carpet over hardwood floors. Listen, you better pull that carpet up once you get the keys to that house if it checks off all the other boxes. Seriously. I have a listing right now, 222 Elder Avenue in Yaden. The carpets have stains on them. Underneath those carpets, gorgeous hardwood floors. So it's like, listen, you would have to take on the burden of pulling them up once you get keys, but underneath it, you've got great, beautiful hardwood floors. So keep that in mind. That's the compromise, right? You want to make sure you're separating your wants from your needs. So your essentials are going to be location, size, safety, right? So location, size, safety. And let me just say, I cannot guarantee that any neighborhood is safe. within, any area that I cover. I can't give you that guarantee. No real estate agent or real estate professional should be giving you that guarantee. But these are things that we know are extremely important to home buyers. It could be you need to be in a certain school district. Like these are the essentials. That's what you kind of want to, those are the needs, right? The extras are going to be, I need a electric fireplace. I want all white walls. Now you're going to have to compromise a bit. Your perfect house could have blue walls. That's just the reality of it. Because the current seller, that's what they decided to do. But thank God you have the ability to customize the home for it to be conducive to what it is that you want. So these are just a couple of samples. Listen, I'm a fan of dated homes. I love a dated home, number one, because I know it's going to be a little cheaper than the newly or less expensive, right? Than the newly renovated homes. And then when you're getting that newly renovated home, you have to love it in the state that, for the most part, if you're paying top dollar, you're not going to go in there and renovate it again if everything was just done. That doesn't make sense. So you're stuck with the color schemes of whatever the flipper or the seller did. And we just have to pray to God that they went neutral, right? They didn't put something funky on there that's going to force you to have a certain color scheme for the house for years to come. So I prefer a blank slate. I prefer all white with white cabinets and natural hardwood floors, or go with a light color carpet. Keep it nice and neutral. But just know that you, as a homeowner, have the ability to customize a property the way you see fit. So even if it has the dated cabinets, you can go in there and upgrade them. Doesn't have to be today, doesn't have to be tomorrow. Honestly, the major goal is to get you into home ownership, to make you become that asset owner. And then everything else you can customize over the years, over the months, however fast you want to do it. Some people want to do it from day one. Dawn, I'm going there, I'm gutting out the kitchen, gutting out the bathroom. They have the funds to do it. Perfect. Some people are like, if it's move-in ready, I will live with it for the next few years and I'll do a little bit here, a little bit there. I love that approach, right? So paint can be changed, and changing the color of paint can have a drastic impact on a property and how it presents. Even small changes like changing a vanity, updating a light fixture, just changing the flooring in a bathroom can give a bathroom a completely different look. And it's your home, right? And you're free to do with it whatever you choose to do with it. All right. Unless you are in some type of homeowner association where they're like, we want the outside of our houses to be the same across the board. Those are considered like cookie cutter developments where you can't do too much with the exterior because they want everything to look the same. So if you know that's not you and you want to be able to do what you want, don't go into a situation like that. You can still go into a development, but into a development where all the houses look different and you are free to express yourself however you see fit. All right. Almost at the end, y'all. So things to consider versus things to let go. Affordability is so important, and we're going to touch on that. If someone wants to raise their hand or take themselves off mute or throw it into the chat as to whether or not you have created a budget, I'd love to hear that because it's important. All right. It's very important to know what you can afford and don't make yourself cash poor. I'm sorry, house poor. That is an intentional action. If you know that you cannot afford more than $1,300 a month, don't get a house that's $1,600, $1,700, $1,800 a month. Don't willingly set yourself up for failure or for hardship. It's not necessarily failure, but it can become a hardship for you. And nobody wants to stress about, how am I going to pay my house note every month? Am I going to lose my house? Nope. No, don't even do it. Don't even self-sabotage. Make sure you're putting out your budget, laying out all of your expenses. Try to stick to 1/3 of your monthly income as best as you can. So for easy numbers, if you're making or netting $4,000 a month in income, try to keep that monthly payment at $1,300 or less. And it is doable. I promise y'all, it's doable. You have to shop for the homes that are in your budget, and there are homes available in every single budget. You just have to be open to it. All right. So again, things to consider. As we said, location and neighborhood quality. Commute times, school districts, structural integrity, and the major systems. These are all the things you want to touch on, right? Make sure that home is sound. Make sure that your major systems are in working condition. You want to make sure that the layout and the flow of the home is good for you. If you are like, I need to have a bathroom on the second floor, and a particular home has a full bathroom and it's only one and it's on the first floor, is that really going to work for you? That may not necessarily be a compromise that you can fix. The design of the house may be what it has to be given that particular design. So you want to make sure that that layout is not something that you're going to hate eventually, especially in the short term. And if I may say, you also want to think forward, right? Because you may very well sell this house one day, may want to upgrade, may want to downgrade. What would a future buyer think about this? Is this something that anybody would like to flow with? Is it like a generally, is this a house that generally has a very nice flow? You want to keep that in mind too. Always think ahead, 5-10 years. Property taxes and monthly affordability. We touched on that. It's so important. If you haven't sat down and really given thought to what you can afford, not what a bank is telling you that you can qualify for, because they're going to base everything off of your gross income, not your net income. Keep that in mind, right? So you could be grossing 4,000 a year, but after taxes come out, maybe now you're only netting I'm saying a year. Lord, not 4,000 a year, 4,000 a month. But let's say after taxes come out, now you're closer to like $3,000 a month. If that's the case, then your monthly house note needs to be $1,000 a month or less. Or I'm always going to throw that or less in there because less is best, but or less. So keep that in mind. You have to move to what works best for you, not what the lenders say can work best or can work for you. All right. So definitely sit down and get all that in writing, review it again, tweak it. If you need to drop some subscriptions and all that, do it, but don't bite off more than you can chew. All right. Things to consider. We're still on the same topic versus things to let go of. So now we got Elsa up here because there are some things that you gotta let go of. You gotta let it go. You gotta let it go. Don't focus on the wrong stuff. And some of this we've already touched on. Wall paint, carpet colors, outdated fixtures. It's fine. Seller's furniture or decor. Listen, their stuff is coming out anyway. So if their stuff is dated, okay, it's dated. Focus on the size, the flow, the layout, right? Unless we notice a bed bug, like if we're noticing something on the seller's furniture that don't quite look right, okay, now we're gonna be focused on the furniture. But absent of citing a bed bug, we don't care if they have floral couches. It's gonna be gone by your final walkthrough anyway. We don't care. All right. Minor landscaping issues. Sometimes things are overgrown, especially in the summer when we're going to visit houses. It's okay. If the bushes are overgrown, if the grass needs to be cut, that's fine. You'll cut it when you get the house if it's not done beforehand. And when you get the house, you're going to want to do it anyway, right? You're going to want to beautify it yourself. So minor landscaping issues, overgrown weeds and all that, we're not going to be focused on those things. It's not going to reduce the home's value. Because the grass needs to be cut doesn't mean that it's worth $10,000 less. That's not the way that goes. It's just it more so impacts curb appeal. But we're going to see right past that stuff because the goal is to get a house. Temporary clutter or odors. It's not uncommon to go into a house where there's a smoker, and especially if there's carpet, the smoke is held up in the carpet. You're more than likely going to be ripping that carpet up or getting it shampooed anyway. You're more than likely going to be painting, right? So that smell will go away with those tweaks that will take place once you become the owner. Clutter is sometimes, a lot of times, experienced as we're making our way through these properties. Not some people have accumulated so much stuff over the years when they've been in their home, they just don't have any more place, any more areas to store it. And so unfortunately, they start putting it in bins. And I'm not even gonna say unfortunately, right? It is what it is. They want to sell, they start putting stuff in bins. Bins may be stacked up. They may be putting a whole bunch of stuff into closets to clear out the main areas like your dining room, your living room, your kitchen. It's okay. we're going to see past all that because we're focused on the flow, the layout, the size, and the overall condition. Personal items we are not getting caught up on, again, because the house is going to be completely cleared out before you get your keys. All right. Once in a blue moon, and this is actually my last slide here, but once in a blue moon, you will have a house that it says buyer will be responsible for clean out. Typically, that's with an investment property. When you're looking to be a first-time home buyer or owner occupant, 99% of the time it's completely cleared out for you, and it's a condition of the agreement of sale. Usually with investor specials, yeah, we may see that if there's clutter in the house and maybe buyers responsible for clearing it out. We will, especially as first-time home buyers, owner occupants, make sure that we get into that contract. This home has to be cleared out. We're not going to have you walking into a mess because that mess costs thousands of dollars to get cleared out. All right. But absent of that disclosure from a seller, the expectation is that the home will be delivered to you in broom swept condition. All right. So when you know you have found the one, how do you know when a home is truly the right fit, right? It's more than just liking the layout or the paint colors. The right home should meet your needs. It's going to align with your budget. I really can't stress budget enough. And it's going to feel like the place that you can see yourself living in for years to come. Another sign is going to be you can't stop thinking about the home. So you've left it and it's like, oh, I really love that home. I see myself there. If this is how this home is getting you in your feels, then you want to give it some more thought, right? A question that I like to ask my buyers is, especially when they've expressed to me like, Dawn, we really like this house. Like we really, really like once you keep telling me that, we really love it. It's perfect area, it has everything we want. And then there's like some hesitation there. Then my question is, are you going to be upset if somebody else gets this home? If it's like, nah, somebody else can have it, we don't like it that much, then it wasn't the home for you. But if it's, oh, we're going to be pissed if somebody else gets this home because this is our home, well, then this is your home. And now it's time to make that offer, right? So other things for you to keep in mind, and you'll notice I speak about budgeting a lot because I don't want to see anybody get, the goal is not to become a homeowner and then lose the home, right? So I speak about it a lot in any webinar that I teach because it is important. Okay. So again, you want to make sure you see yourself there. Do not stretch yourself too thin. Make sure that most of your wants and non-negotiables are there. Notice I have the word most in there, not all, because nothing is perfect. You feel excited when you leave the house and not stressed. Some houses will need some improvement, some work, right? But if you are so overwhelmed, given what you saw in this house, like this is a nightmare house, then why are you going? Don't stress yourself out. Let's just look at a few more. Don't even go into a situation where you're feeling stressed just off of the showing. Lord have mercy. Let's see a couple more houses. All right. If you find yourself comparing every other home to the one you've fallen in love with, then give that home some thought. All right. If you're like, this home has this, that one didn't have that. That one didn't have it. This one is in that location. I really like this location better. If the one that you are obsessed with is like checking off all them boxes, right? And you feel it, then it may be the one. Because the right home isn't just seen, it is felt, as I have at the bottom of that screen. All right. So I just want to recap and thank you before I make the offer for anybody to ask me any questions that you may have. So everything that was covered in tonight's educational session was for you to make sure you are touring with confidence by knowing the do's and the don'ts. And let me just point out that you will, everybody is going to get the do's and the don'ts document in your email by tomorrow, everything that I touched on today. That way, when you're out here touring, you're going to be like, all right, Dawn told me don't focus on this. And Dawn told me to focus on whether my house is on a slant, okay? So you're going to have that so that you're able to tour homes with confidence. You want to make sure that you distinguish your wants versus your needs. That's important because that can really table the goal of home ownership when you're being unrealistic. Don't be unrealistic. Is a new kitchen an absolute need or is it a want? A kitchen can always be renovated. So is the need really the space and the location and the school district and the commute time? If that is the case, put it on the need side of the sheet. Get a sheet of paper, write out your wants, write out your needs. It's always great to get a few of your wants. You're likely going to get them all. Maybe you will, but I want to prepare you that you won't get them all. But it is good to know what the deal breakers are. Make sure you are looking beyond the distractions that we don't need, such as the staging, decor, minor cosmetic flaws. There may be a nick in the wall. People are living here unless it's a brand new flip, right? If it's still owner occupied, there may be a couple of blemishes. If it's cosmetic, nothing major, cool, cool, right? We're not going to stress about it. Those are the tub needs to be caulked. They got the little mildew going around the caulk that looks nasty. Who cares? When you get the house, we're going to scrape it out. We're going to put a fresh layer of caulk. It'll be nice and white or nice and clear if you decide to go with silicone. Minor, minor, minor cosmetic issue. But I see people make a big deal out of it. Minor. All right. Recognize the one when you found the right home. All right. So in closing, I'm going to say that to everybody, buying a home is one of the most exciting steps in life and one of the biggest investments that you'll ever make. And I'm sure that everyone already knows this. But touring a home isn't just about walking through the properties. It's about knowing what to look for and what to avoid and how to recognize that right fit for you. And if you ever needed to talk through a home, you should feel comfortable enough to talk to your agent about, like, I really like this one, but I'm not sure. So that we can go into our therapy session, like, all right, well, tell me why you're not sure. Is it the monthly payment? Is it the location, school district? Is it the space? Is it the layout? We can sit back and peel back layers because sometimes it takes talking through it to really arrive at the decision as to whether or not you want to make this investment. And we're not talking a $5 investment. We're talking in a lot of cases several $100,000. And so with that said, you don't want to rush it. Yes, we have to be quick given the market, but you don't want to rush into the wrong decision. All right. So with that, does anybody have any questions? I'm going to just check the chat to see if there's anything here. If you have any questions, you can feel free to take yourself off mute. I did it in under an hour. Thank you, God. Because sometimes it can go on way over the hour that I have reserved. All right. So nobody has any questions? All right, cool. So if you do, you have my phone number. You have all of my contact information, or you should at least, and you should never hesitate to give me a call if I can help you out with anything real estate related. And if it's nothing that I can help you out with personally, I'm sure that I have a resource that can. So once again, thank you so much for hopping on the webinar, and I will see you on the next one.